Chapter 936. With that thought in mind, Luo Qingtong instantly gritted her teeth. This man, did he really like to act? She would fulfill his wish. With that thought in mind, Luo Qingtong's lips suddenly curved into a beautiful smile. So that's how it is. Then I've really misunderstood you, Chief Instructor. As Luo Qingtong spoke, she placed Yi Qianqian's hand back on her waist. With a faint smile on her lips, she looked at Yi Qianqian with an apologetic and embarrassed gaze. Since that's the case, please feel me properly, Chief Instructor. Remember, don't miss anything. Otherwise, if there's something wrong with the information you've investigated, I won't be able to smoothly improve my strength. Thank you, Instructor. As Luo Qingtong spoke, Yi Qianqian's heart instantly felt stifled. He looked at the apologetic expression on the young girl's face and his heart instantly felt stifled. He just wanted to tease this woman and see her explode in anger. However, when he saw that she wasn't angry and even allowed him to touch her, Yi Qianqian couldn't feel happy at all, okay? He knew that Chief Instructor Yi Luo was him. However, Luo Qingtong and the others didn't know. This woman actually allowed another man to touch her. Even if he wanted to improve his strength, she wouldn't allow it. Yi Qianqian felt a wave of stifled anger in his heart. The stifling anger in his heart made his disguised face look even colder and colder. All right. He gritted his teeth and squeezed out a word from between his teeth. If it weren't for the fact that he still remembered that his identity was Yi Qianqian and not Yi Qianqian, and that this wasn't the right place to be, he would have already pressed the young girl in front of him into his arms and ruthlessly punished her. This woman was really, coming here personally to stand guard was indeed the right thing to do. Otherwise, if she wasn't careful, who knew how many rotten peach blossoms she would attract? Yi Qianqian felt suffocated. He looked coldly at Luo Qingtong and continued to stroke her back. But this time, he wasn't in the mood to tease Luo Qingtong like before. His movements were very fast, and there wasn't a trace of ambiguity. Luo Qingtong snickered in her heart when she sensed the low pressure coming from the man's body. The smile on her lips grew wider and wider. She paused midway and asked Yi Qianqian, Chief Instructor, is my aura weak? Do you want to take a closer look? And here, Chief Instructor, when my aura passed by, my meridians were faintly swollen and painful. Was it because I was injured before? Do you want to touch more for me? As Luo Qingtong's voice continued to ring out, Yi Qianqian's face turned darker and darker. There was no other reason. When Luo Qingtong stopped, there were some places that just happened to be sensitive areas on the girl's body. If this was Yi Qianqian's original identity, he would of course be happy that Luo Qingtong was cooperating with him. How comfortable would it be to have a soft and fragrant jade in his arms? But unfortunately, he was now Yi Luo. When he thought about how he was touching Luo Qingtong's body as a stranger, even if they were separated by a thick robe, he felt a wave of displeasure in his heart. But this was a trap that he had dug for himself. Who asked him to tell Luo Qingtong that if he didn't understand the situation inside her body, it wouldn't be easy for her to improve her strength? Now, he had dug himself into a trap. Yi Qianqian finished examining Luo Qingtong's body with a dark expression and prepared to leave without saying a word. Chapter 937. Chief Instructor, aren't you going to check for the others? Are you too tired? Then I'll check for them on your behalf. Luo Qingtong had just finished speaking when the veins on Yi Qianqian's forehead popped. She was going to check for them. Just like how he had treated her. Yi Qianqian's face instantly turned as black as the bottom of a pot when he thought of how his hands had roamed all over Luo Qingtong's body and how she would treat the others the same way he had treated her. No. He flung his sleeves and said through gritted teeth. They don't need it. Why? Luo Qingtong looked at Yi Qianqian's gloomy face that was as black as the bottom of a pot. She was laughing so hard in her heart that she was about to fall over. However, on the surface, she looked puzzled and innocent. She loved to see Yi Qianxian so angry that he wanted to explode but couldn't do anything about it. She wanted him to hide his identity and flirt with her. Because I can only help one person raise their strength by one realm at a time. You want to give up this opportunity? Yi Qianxian looked at her with a dark expression. Luo Qingtong stuck out her tongue and didn't say anything. Although she really wanted to tease the man again, it would be troublesome if she accidentally overdid it. Luo Qingtong felt that it was better to take it easy. If the man found out that she had already discovered his identity and was still teasing him, she didn't know how angry he would be. Most importantly, Luo Qingtong hadn't had enough fun yet. With that thought, Luo Qingtong immediately responded obediently and didn't walk over to Yuan Hu and the others. She was just putting on an act. If she really touched them in front of Yi Qianxian, she was afraid that the man wouldn't even care about his disguise and would directly attack her. How could she let Yi Qianxian do that? Seeing that Luo Qingtong had finally calmed down, Yi Qianxian snorted coldly. Without saying anything, he turned and left. He was so infuriated by Luo Qingtong that he didn't want to stay here any longer. She would settle the score with this woman when she got back. Yi Qianxian gritted his teeth. Oh my god, that scared me to death. It wasn't until Yi Qianxian's figure disappeared from everyone's sight that someone patted his chest and exclaimed. Yes. The chief instructor's aura is so scary. It's even scarier than when the grand principal and the others are angry. Everyone was shocked. When Luo Qingtong was interacting with Yi Qianxian, the latter's aura was terrifying. Except for Luo Qingtong, the others were all shocked to the spot. It was as if they were being stared at by an ancient fierce beast. They didn't even dare to move. They were envious of Luo Qingtong for being able to interact with Yi Qianxian so easily. Boss, you're still the best. The chief instructor has such a terrifying aura, yet you were able to chat so happily with him. Yuan Hu and the others patted their chests and said. Not at all. Luo Qingtong's lips curled up. She couldn't help but laugh when she thought of the man's dark face and violent mood before he left. The chief instructor, he, is quite interesting. And, he's very cute. Haha. With that kind of EQ, the man still wanted to hide his identity and tease her. Let's see how I tease him until he starts to doubt his life. Luo Qingtong laughed as she walked out with Yuan Hu and the others. Let's go, we'll go back first and deal with the heavenly demon group. Also, as a reward for the Gue Yuan group helping us this time, send a third of the resources to the Gue Yuan group. Say that it's my thanks to the Crown Prince. She was thanking him for giving her the medicine and protecting Yuan Hu and the others. She said that she would return the favor to Ma Qinyi. Chapter 938. Yes. Yuan Hu and the rest left excitedly. This time, Luo Qingtong really helped them vent their anger. Not only that, but she also got so many good things. Not only did they snatch back the resources that the Dragon Group's people had snatched away from them, but they also cheated the Dragon Group's people. Thinking of the Dragon Corps' faces when they paid for the resources, Yuan Hu and the rest were indescribably happy. Not to mention forcing Yuan Mo and Su Jinhue to kneel and apologize. He felt really good about venting his anger. Yuan Hu, Ling Tianhan, and the others all had proud expressions on their faces. However, at the same time, they were also worried. Luo Qingtong had treated the Dragon Group, Yuan Mo, and the others like that. Would the latter use even more shameless tricks? Especially the Dragon Corps' people. Behind them was the Martial King. Thinking this, they all made up their minds to cultivate properly. In the future, they wouldn't let Luo Qingtong fight alone. Every time, they had to rely on their boss to get justice for them. They had enough of being a burden. Being taken in as a closed-door student by the chief instructor was one of their chances. When the time came, they would train properly and not disappoint their boss. They wouldn't let anyone get past them and attack their boss. Everyone made up their minds. In the Soul Institute, the Soul Institute's head teacher brought UNMO and Su Jinhua back. Before he could reprimand them, the Grand Dean arrived. After being warned and forced to promise that he wouldn't use his power and authority to harm Luo Qingtong, Su Diheng sent the Grand Dean away and knocked UNMO to the ground. Paw! UNMO's face was slapped harshly by him. Evil disciple, kneel down. Su Diheng's face was filled with anger. He had never been so humiliated like today. All of this was because of that Luo Qingtong. And this proud student in front of him was the fiancé of that Luo Qingtong. No matter how the other party trampled on him, he still refused to break off the engagement. The Soul Institute's great teacher used to think that Yuanma was someone who valued relationships and kept his promises. But now, he only felt shame and resentment. If you still treat me as your teacher, then divorce Luo Qingtong after the gambling match. Su Diheng slammed the armrest of his seat heavily. The armrest of the gold and iron Jinan wood was smashed into pieces almost instantly under his unrestrained strength. It could be seen how angry he was. Yes. I understand, teacher. UNMO lowered his head, kneeling on the ground. His fingernails dug into his palms. He didn't want to give up on Luo Qingtong, but he also couldn't give up on the support of the Soul Institute's great teacher. After entering the Empire of Qin's Sacred Academy, he became one of the most sought-after genius experts in the Empire of Qin's Sacred Academy's Heavenly Palace in a short period of time. He was highly valued by the martial king. Most of this was because of Su Diheng. As the Soul Institute's great teacher, Su Diheng's identity and strength were Yuanma's greatest support. If he lost his support and angered him, Yuanma would find it difficult to move an inch in the Empire of Qin's Sacred Academy. To Yuanma, this was something he couldn't accept. Moreover, he still needed to rely on Su Diheng to stand out in the distinguished meeting half a year later. Chapter 939. Thinking of the benefits she could bring him in the future, Yuanma gritted his teeth and kowtowed heavily to Su Diheng. He said coldly, "Teacher, don't worry. Luo Qingtong humiliated you like this. I won't let her go. I'll personally cripple her strength in the duel 1 month later and make her apologize to you on her knees. I'll help you vent your anger." He didn't mention the cancellation of the engagement. Yuanma's idea was to cripple Luo Qingtong's strength so that she could only leave the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin. In this case, he could quietly capture Luo Qingtong and imprison her in a place no one knew about. No matter what, Yuanma wouldn't give up on Luo Qingtong. She could only be his wife. It didn't matter if she was just a decoration or an empty shell. She had to stay by his side. Yuanma's heart was cold. "Luo Qingtong, I gave you a chance. Since you didn't care about it, don't blame me for destroying you." His words made Su Diheng's expression soften a little. The latter's purple-red face eased a little. He looked at him and said coldly, "I hope you can do it. Otherwise, don't call me teacher in the future." While Yuanma and Su Diheng were talking, Tiger Cub led a group of people back to the Dragon Group's encampment and smashed the main hall into smithereens. "Bastard!" Tiger Cub's face was extremely angry. "That Luo Qingtong is too much. She's too much." Ever since Tiger Cub rose with Mo Qinxian, he had never been humiliated as much as today. The Dragon Regiment was completely humiliated today. They had mocked Luo Qingtong for overestimating herself, and now they were slapped in the face. If that was all, it would be fine. Outsiders wouldn't lose anything by talking about it. But the bad thing was that Luo Qingtong came prepared this time. Thinking about the huge amount of resources he had to pay this time, Tiger Cub's heart ached. He could already foresee the severe punishment he would receive when Her Highness King Wu returns. And all of this was brought about by Luo Qingtong. Even the entire dragon group and King Wu had become the laughingstock of the holy court of the Empire of Qin. The more Tong Hu thought about it, the angrier he got. The members of the dragon group also had heavy expressions on their faces. They didn't expect Luo Qingtong to be so capable. Which new student didn't tuck their tail between their legs when they first entered the school? Except for that crazy idiot from the Martial Arts Institute. However, Luo Qingtong did the exact opposite. She was unimaginably high profile and slapped them in the face as soon as she arrived. At this moment, they couldn't even raise their heads. Such humiliation caused them to feel extremely sullen and angry. Deputy Regiment Commander, I think we should go directly to His Highness King Wu and ask him if he wants to make a move on the Gui Yuan Regiment now. A member of the dragon group said angrily that Luo Qingtong's backer is the Crown Prince and the Gui Yuan Regiment. Without the Gui Yuan Regiment, let's see how arrogant she can be. By then, she will have to spit out all the resources that she took. That's right. The other members of the dragon group agreed. Previously, they were afraid of taking action because Luo Qingtong controlled the cultivation array of the Heavenly Hall's training ground and didn't allow them to enter. Therefore, they temporarily compromised and gave those resources to Luo Qingtong. But now, Luo Qingtong couldn't use that to threaten them. As long as they got rid of the Gui Yuan Regiment, wouldn't Luo Qingtong be at their disposal? Chapter 940. Don't worry. Tong Hu's voice was cold. His expression was extremely gloomy. His Highness King Wu is making his final breakthrough. When he comes back, he might be able to suppress the Crown Prince and become the #1 person in the Holy Court. We can't disturb him. Let's put this matter aside for the time being. Luo Qingtong and the others can't do anything. Let them be arrogant for a while. When His Highness King Wu comes back, let's see how they'll die. Tong Hu's voice was cold. The others thought the same and immediately suppressed the resentment in their hearts. While the people from the Dragon Regiment and Yuanma were depressed, Luo Qingtong's matter spread throughout the holy court of the Empire of Qin. Almost everyone knew. There was a new student called Luo Qingtong who took a 3-month leave. When she came back, the first elder and the elders of the holy court had no choice but to give in. She lowered her head to the Grand Principal. Not only that, but she also directly went against the Dragon Regiment. When everyone thought she would lose, she didn't rely on anyone and forced the entire Dragon Regiment to lower their heads. When the people from the holy court of the Empire of Qin who weren't present heard this, their first reaction was disbelief. Not to mention that not only did Luo Qingtong force the Dragon Regiment to lower their heads, but she also obtained a large amount of resources and made the Dragon Regiment, Yuanma, and the others kneel down. As the news spread, everyone who heard about it was dumbfounded. In the Gui Yuan Regiment, Ma Chenyi was playing chess with the experts under his command. The latter was the grandson of a first-class official in the imperial court and was also Ma Chenyi's loyal follower. If he wasn't injured this time, he would have gone with the others to help Luo Qingtong. Like the others, he was also very dissatisfied with Ma Chenyi's desperate help to Luo Qingtong. Your Highness, if you really like this Luo Qingtong, you can just issue a decree to bring her into the palace. Why do you have to go through so much trouble? He frowned. The people we send out this time are the top experts and core members of our side. Conflict with the Dragon Corps is unavoidable. Your body hasn't recovered yet. Isn't this giving Mo Qinxian an opportunity? And that Luo Qingtong really doesn't know when to advance or retreat. She's just a new student. She doesn't have any status or influence. What right does she have to go against the Dragon Group? Now, she wants us, the Dragon Group, to clean up her mess. As he said this, his words revealed his great dissatisfaction with Luo Qingtong. Ma Chenyi glanced at him indifferently and said nothing. Luo Qingtong had neither status nor power. If he knew the real identity of Luo Qingtong, he wouldn't say so. She was the holy princess of Chu and was valued by the royal family of Chu and the Blackfield. How could she be humiliated? If Luo Qingtong could tolerate this, she would be ridiculed in the future when her identity was exposed. What's more, who said that Luo Qingtong couldn't defeat the dragon group? Even Great Yong coveted the throne of Chu and was defeated by Luo Qingtong, not to mention the dragon group. Ma Chenyi didn't worry about what would happen to his people if they followed Luo Qingtong. He had a hunch that this time, the people of the dragon group would be taught a lesson by Luo Qingtong. He just didn't know what the other party would give him as a big gift. At this moment, the news of Luo Qingtong making the members of the dragon regiment lower their heads and kneel down to apologize spread. Everyone's faces were filled with despair. Especially the two who betrayed Ling Tianhan and joined Yuanma, and bullied Ling Tianhan and the others with Lu Long and the others from Tianyu branch. They thought that by relying on Yuanma, they had obtained a backer and would be able to achieve a meteoric rise. But who would have thought that he would end up like this? As for Su Xiaoxiao and the others, after Luo Qingtong's arrival, they jumped up and became the targets of envy and jealousy. It was said that they had all been taken in by the new chief instructor as closed-door students. And that chief instructor was even praised by the Grand Supreme Dean himself, saying that he was very powerful. Thinking of this, the two of them spat out a mouthful of blood, rolled their eyes, and fainted. Luo Qingtong did not know about this at all. Chapter 942. Bang! As soon as Luo Qingtong went back, she was pressed against the wall by a sulking man. Where did you go today? Yi Qianming's face was dark. I went to teach someone a lesson. Hearing Yi Qianming's question, Luo Qingtong's lips curled up slightly. What's wrong? She asked deliberately and put her hand on the man's neck. Why are you unhappy? Of course, Yi Qianming was unhappy. He disguised himself as Yi Luo and followed Luo Qingtong around. He wanted to tease Luo Qingtong and see her defeated look. But, thinking of how the girl let him do whatever he wanted, Yi Qianming was angry. This woman, although he knew that it was him, she didn't know, right? How could she be so obedient? In front of him, she was so cunning and willful, but in front of others, she was so obedient. Yi Qianming was really angry when he thought about it. He leaned over and bit the girl's lips. What else? He asked with a cold snort. Nothing else. Luo Qingtong was about to suffer internal injuries from holding back her laughter. This man deserved it. Who asked him to hide his identity to deceive her? She wanted him to die. Humph. I heard that you found a new instructor and became his last disciple? Yi Qianming said coldly. Yes. Luo Qingtong said with a smile, speaking of which, the chief instructor is very good. He said that he would help me to improve my strength to the martial emperor realm within a month. Lord, do you think that I am very lucky to have met such a chief instructor? Luo Qingtong's words were purposely laced with admiration and joy. Yi Qianming heard this and exploded in an instant. You like him very much? He said with a cold face and gritted his teeth. Yes. Luo Qingtong nodded with a smile. The chief instructor is so good. Of course I like him. Ha ha ha. You really believe it? Luo Qingtong said and suddenly put her hands around the man's neck and kissed him on the lips. Don't worry, I didn't. If I have to like someone, it's you. Luo Qingtong's words instantly eased Yi Qianming's expression. He looked at the mischievous girl in front of him and couldn't help but pull her into his arms. She really is a demon. A casual sentence could affect his thoughts and emotions, but he was still willing to endure it. In the future, you're not allowed to casually get close to other men. The same goes for the chief instructor. Yi Qianming said coldly. He had completely forgotten that he was also the chief instructor. Hearing this, Luo Qingtong's eyes suddenly turned. How could this be? She wasn't done yet. This man had first changed his identity to flirt with her. Would he stop just like that? Thinking of this, Luo Qingtong suddenly said, "That won't do. Chief instructor still needs to improve my strength. Furthermore," Luo Qingtong said with a sly smile, "he gives me a very familiar feeling. My lord, do you think he is someone I know? Or, is he someone I know?" If he had the ability, he had to admit that he was the chief instructor. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to stop her from investigating the other party's identity. Yi Qianming didn't speak after hearing this. How could he admit that the man was him? When Luo Qingtong asked him why he had to hide his identity and stay by her side, what would he say? Yi Qianming would never admit to such a thing that damaged his dignity as the Dark Lord. Otherwise, he wouldn't have hidden his identity and stayed by Luo Qingtong's side. Sleep. Chapter 943. Luo Qingtong held on to his waist while trying to hold back her laughter. The two snuggled up to each other and soon fell asleep. In the next few days, Luo Qingtong was busy dealing with the heavenly demon group and the resources. Because they knew that Luo Qingtong went against the dragon group for Su Xiaoxiao, many people in the Empire of Qin wanted to join the heavenly demon group. Especially those who had been bullied by the dragon group in the past and even caused their forces to disband. In the past, they did not want to join the heavenly demon group because they did not think highly of Luo Qingtong. After all, they did not think that Luo Qingtong was qualified to be compared to Mo Qinshuan's dragon group. King Wu was very popular now. With the crown prince's silence, the future ruler of the Empire of Qin should be Mo Qinshian. The Empire of Qin would also be his world in the future. Under such circumstances, who would dare to offend the dragon group? But Luo Qingtong had offended her. Not only did she offend them, but she also trampled on the dragon group. Everyone thought that she would be unlucky, but in the end, the dragon group was the unlucky one. With such ability, most people knew about Luo Qingtong and were willing to join her heavenly demon group. After all, the Crown Prince's Gui Yuan group had too many scruples and could not go against the dragon group as they wished. But Luo Qingtong could. Plus, she had a lot of cultivation resources in her hands, so everyone rushed to her side. In the past few days, the door of Luo Qingtong's courtyard was almost broken by people. But this time, Luo Qingtong was not like the time when she wanted to trick the dragon group. She did not reject anyone. She gave Su Xiaoxiao and the others the right to evaluate the recruitment, and asked them to be strict. Luo Qingtong was protective, but she did not want to be a shield and a tool for revenge. Want to be her people and be under her protection. Yes. First, send loyalty and fanaticism. Luo Qingtong would rather go without than have something substandard. Moreover, she had never set her eyes on the Holy Institute of the Empire of Qin. This place was just a springboard for her. She thought of the other side that Yi Qianming and the others came to. Thinking of that man's inhuman strength, Luo Qingtong lost interest in the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin. Her goal was to catch up with that man. Then, she would openly announce to everyone that he was Luo Qingtong's man. No one is allowed to covet it. Yi Qianming was also busy with Luo Qingtong. She had no idea what he was doing these days. It was not until 3 days later that Luo Qingtong received the news from Yuan Hu. Boss. The chief instructor wants us to gather at the Sky Palace's training ground. The group of people rushed to the empty space in the Heavenly Hall's training ground. Yi Qianming, disguised as Yi Luo, was already waiting there. Chapter 944. What surprised everyone even more was that the rocks at the top of the waterfall were so sharp that they looked like they were carved out by a knife. The pool at the bottom of the waterfall also looked like it was newly formed. There were no water plants or mud that had accumulated for a long time. What surprised everyone even more was that in the middle of the waterfall, there seemed to be something faintly blocking it. It looked like a small flight of stairs. Oh my God! Could it be that this waterfall was man-made? Everyone's eyes widened as they thought of this. Luo Qingtong couldn't help but glance at the man who was standing with his hands behind his back. He disappeared for the past few days because he was busy with this. Luo Qingtong's heart was filled with warmth. Every time she thought that Yi Qianming was good enough to her, he would use his actions to tell her that it wasn't enough. It was far from enough. This will be your training ground from now on. Yi Qianming's words were very concise and calm. 1 month, I will only teach you for 1 month. How much you can learn will depend on yourselves. The reason why Yi Qianming appeared to teach in the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin was because of Luo Qingtong. The girl needed a month to improve her strength, so he would accompany her for a month. He wouldn't waste any other time on anyone else. How much these people could learn would depend on their own abilities. Bang! As soon as Yi Qianming finished speaking, there was a boom as he waved his right sleeve. In an instant, an invisible wind swept out and cut the thick waterfall into 2 halves. Time and space seemed to have stopped. The waterfall was cut into 2 halves and suspended in the air, revealing the protruding stone steps on the stone wall. Do you see those stone steps? Yi Qianming's gaze swept past Luo Qingtong. From 1 to 10, it's exactly 10 steps. The longer you can stay under the pressure of the waterfall, the greater the pressure, and the greater the chance of a breakthrough. Usually, Yi Qianming wouldn't talk so much, but he was now Yi Luo and had to help this woman improve her strength. Naturally, he had to explain everything in detail. Just as he finished speaking, the waterfall that seemed to be silently floating in the air also came crashing down with a loud bang and connected with each other once again. The sound of the waterfall was like thunder and drums. Everyone's face turned pale when they heard Yi Qianming's words. Oh my God! Cultivating under this waterfall. And he still had to endure the bombardment of the thunder and the sound of water. Damn it, Chief Instructor, this wasn't training, this was killing. Even the geniuses of the Gue Yuan group who were on the soaring dragon list turned pale when they heard this. The power of this waterfall should be enough to seriously injure the weaker students, right? It was impossible to withstand the pressure and cultivate under the waterfall without skills. The chief instructor's training method was too ruthless. But then, their foundation, their strength, without damaging their foundation, their strength. After all, this was a life and death experience in disguise. They were all seeking breakthroughs in desperate situations. The chief instructor really put a lot of thought into this. In fact, it was the same. If it weren't for Luo Qingtong, Yi Qianming wouldn't have worried about this. Wanting to improve their strength in a short time without damaging their foundation. Yes. Fight with him every day and break through between life and death. Bei Qing and Feng Yu's strength were trained this way. But Luo Qingtong. How could Yi Qianming bear to hit her? Not to mention kill her. Chapter 945. Bang! Everyone finally mustered up their courage. After all, they were the elites of their respective families. Even if they lost, they would not lose their confidence. Plop! The first person went up the stone steps. However, as soon as his figure appeared on the first stone step, his body was instantly swept down by the water flow with a bang, causing him to instantly fall down from the top of the stone steps. No! It's too slippery. The impact of the water current is too strong. It's comparable to the attack of the Martial King realm. I can't stand on it at all. The student of the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin shouted as he swam in the underground pool. Everyone's expression changed at once when they heard this. The attack of the water current was so strong. While everyone was shocked, Luo Qingtong's eyes lit up instantly. The attack of the water current was so strong, and it was a completely disordered attack. Therefore, they needed to circulate the power in their bodies all the time. They had to strengthen it when they needed to and disperse it when they needed to. In this way, the power in their bodies would become more and more harmonious, and they would be able to control it more and more easily. If this went on, the chances of a breakthrough would naturally be higher and higher. She knew it. Luo Qingtong's eyes lit up slightly. Almost instantly, she jumped up from where she was and rushed to the first stone step at the edge of the waterfall. Let me try. Her eyes were shining brightly. Boom! Luo Qingtong had just jumped onto the stairs when she felt a force that could topple the river and overturn the sea, bombarding her continuously. It was still an understatement to say that it was comparable to the attack of the martial king realm. With so many water currents gathered together, the attack power was sometimes strong and sometimes weak. When it was strong, it was close to the attack of the martial royal realm. Boom, boom, boom. Luo Qingtong tried her best to circulate the power in her body. She could not use her pupil technique at all. Even if she could, it was too late. The water currents were attacking her continuously, and the power of each part was not the same at all. Boom, boom, boom. Luo Qingtong instinctively circulated the power in her body to resist. The power of the water currents hit her body and spread to her limbs and bones. 1 breath, 2 breaths, 3 breaths, 10 breaths. Bang! Luo Qingtong's figure was rushed down the stairs. The next second, he fell into the water with a splash. Boss! Yuan Hu and the others quickly surrounded him. I'm fine. Luo Qingtong climbed out of the pool. The young girl's figure was exquisite. She was only 15 or 16 years old, and was in the prime of her life. After her robe was wet, it stuck to her body, outlining the contours of her body that were just beginning to develop. It was either concave or convex, revealing a different kind of seduction amidst the inexperience. The moment Yi Qianxian saw it, his eyes darkened. With a swish, he tossed his robe to the girl, covering her wet body and hiding the seductive scene that could make a saint go crazy. What are you all doing here? All of you, go up and train yourselves. As he spoke, he chased them away. Luo Qingtong looked at the man like a large carnivore, protecting his food and driving away all the people who might covet his delicious food. Suddenly, there was a burst of laughter in her heart. Chief Instructor, how's my performance? She deliberately tugged at the robe that the man draped over her body. Chapter 946. Very good. Yi Qianxian stared at the girl's exposed snow-white skin and seductive curves with a burning gaze. He couldn't take his eyes off her. Damn it. Why does this woman look so seductive when she's wet? Luo Qingtong's robe was actually very thick and of good quality. Although it was tightly ironed and wrapped around her body, the places that should be exposed weren't exposed at all. But for some reason, Yi Qianxian felt that this scene was even more irresistible and seductive than when she was naked. It made him want to tear off her clothes at all costs. Yi Qianxian's throat moved. Just as he was about to move, he remembered that his current identity wasn't Ming Zun of the Black Field, but the chief instructor of the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin, Yi Luo. This thought was like a bucket of cold water that extinguished the fire in his heart. Thinking about how Luo Qingtong was so seductive in front of other men, even if that man was himself, Yi Qianxian still felt depressed. But he couldn't say anything about Luo Qingtong. She was wearing her clothes properly and hadn't done anything. With this thought, Yi Qianxian felt even more depressed. Get up. Put on a few more clothes and start training again. At this moment, Yi Qianxian started to regret making such a waterfall for Luo Qingtong to train. Even if he wanted to do it, he should have brought Luo Qingtong to train alone. But this way, he wouldn't be able to achieve his goal of hiding his identity. Yi Qianxian felt a burst of irritation as he thought about it. On the other hand, Luo Qingtong looked at Yi Qianxian's appearance and snickered in her heart. Cough. Okay. She agreed and turned around. Then she pulled on Yi Qianxian's sleeve. Wait. Instructor. She looked at Yi Qianxian with a smile. Then, she lifted her wet hair and tossed it to the side. My hair is tangled with a hairpin. Instructor, can you help me fix it? She was trying so hard to stifle her laughter that she almost suffered internal injuries. The girl's hair was soft and smooth, like a waterfall that cascaded down. However, because she didn't know that she was going to train in the waterfall this time, she didn't take off the hairpin. It tangled with her hair, making it a little messy. Yi Qianxian's face was tense as he watched the young girl lift up one side of her hair. Her black, satin-like hair made Luo Qingtong's snow-white skin appear even more tender and white. Because she wanted Yi Qianxian to help her remove the hairpin that was wrapped around her hair, Luo Qingtong slightly lowered her head, making her neck look even more white and slender. Looking down from his angle, he could see the tender whiteness of the girl's neck spreading all the way down until it disappeared into her slightly open lapel. That faintly discernible style and snow-white fullness made Yi Qianxian's eyes darken. He stretched out his hand stiffly and took off the hairpin that was wrapped around the girl's hair one by one. His entire person was in a state of ice and fire. He was burning because of Luo Qingtong's appearance at this moment, but he was also depressed and cold because his identity was not as Blackfield's Mingzun. On one hand, he was so depressed that he was about to explode. On the other hand, he couldn't help but stare at Luo Qingtong. This woman was really born to be his nemesis. Yi Qianxian didn't know why he had to endure this kind of torture. So this was the feeling of being loved and cherished in the palm of someone's hands. Luo Qingtong only felt that she had never been so happy and relaxed. No matter what she did, there would be a man standing behind her to support her and watch her move forward step by step. Climb high. Stand by his side. This feeling was really, really great. Ha! Luo Qingtong's voice was cheerful, hiding the snicker that she just couldn't help laughing. The girl was clearly getting stronger and stronger, and she was also getting further and further away. If they didn't work harder, even if Luo Qingtong didn't say that she didn't want them, they would be too embarrassed to stay by her side. The group of people didn't want to be left behind by Luo Qingtong at all. Therefore, they trained hard. At least Luo Qingtong still had her Do technique. When she was blasted into the pool by the waterfall, she could slightly adjust the angle and strength so that she wouldn't fall so miserably. However, Yuan Hu and the others were completely smashing down. Chapter 950. Hearing Mo Chinchuan's words, Tong Hu and the others were stunned. Your Highness. They stammered and couldn't say anything for a long time. What happened this time was really humiliating. The group of people originally thought that Mo Chinxian would not be so angry when they talked about these things after his breakthrough. But at this moment, Mo Chinchuan's strength did not break through, and he was in a bad mood, so they didn't dare to speak. In the end, it was Tong Hu told him what happened recently under Mo Chinchuan's gaze. Hearing that the members of the Dragon Regiment were humiliated and were forced to kneel and apologize on the spot by Luo Qingtong, Mo Chinxian was instantly furious. Bang! He slammed the table in front of him with one hand, and the aura that exploded from his body instantly blew Tong Hu and the others who were kneeling in front of him to the ground. Good! 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 Mo Chinxian was extremely furious. He looked at Tong Hu and the others who were lying on the ground and laughed out of anger. How long has it been since I left the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin? How could you embarrass me to this extent? You were forced to kneel and apologize by a freshman who just entered the academy and pay a large amount of cultivation resources. Why don't you just die? Mo Qinxian was so angry that he even changed the way he addressed himself. He looked at Tong Hu and the others who were struggling to get up from the ground with a gloomy look, and wished that he could kick them to death directly. How could they humiliate him so much? Not only that, they even threw them to the woman Ma Qinyi liked. How could they still show up in front of him? No wonder they were so surprised when they saw him, and so disappointed when they saw that his strength did not break through. A bunch of useless trash. Mo Qinxian was so angry. Tong Hu and the others knelt on the ground and did not even dare to say a word. Although there was a rule in the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin that no one could kill a fellow student, with Mo Qinxuan's status, if he really killed them and destroyed the evidence, who could do anything about it? The group of people lay on the ground silently. When Mo Qinxian was almost done venting, he remembered that Luo Qingtong seemed to be Yu Wenma's fiancé. He immediately said coldly, "Call Yu Wenma here." Immediately, someone from the dragon group went to find Yu Wenmo and brought him over. Yu Wenma. Mo Qinxuan's voice was cold. Luo Qingtong is your fiancé. What do you think we should do this time? Mo Qinxian looked at Yu Wenma with a gloomy face. He had lost a lot of face this time. Not only that, but he also suspected that Ma Qinyi already knew about his luck-seizing technique and had found a way to break it. Luo Qingtong was deliberately arranged by him to slap his face. On the other hand, Yu Wenma, Luo Qingtong's fiancé, was also suspected by him. This time, if it were not for Yu Wenma, the dragon group might not have confronted Luo Qingtong, and they would not have given Ma Qinyi a chance to slap his face. Thinking that he had suppressed Ma Qinyi for so many years since his rise, and at this time, when he was about to succeed, he was slapped in the face by Luo Qingtong. His face and prestige were all lost. Mo Qinxian was extremely angry. He did not think that Luo Qingtong, the legitimate daughter of a lord's mansion from a small inferior country, could have such ability. So, all of this was ordered by Ma Qinyi. Then, did Yu Wenmo rely on him and deliberately create opportunities for him? Chapter 951. As soon as he said that, Yu Wenmo immediately knew what was going on. He gritted his teeth, bowed his head, and repeated what he had said to Su Deheng before. Your Highness, don't worry. Since Luo Qingtong humiliated the dragon group and you, I will personally cripple her abilities in the duel 3 days later and make her pay the price for what she did this time. Very good. Looking at the expression on Yu Wenma's face, Mo Qinxian smiled. He relaxed his body and leaned back, saying coldly, I heard that you would marry no one but her. I wanted to let her go for your sake. Since you have such an awareness and are so loyal to me, then why don't you show me your loyalty? Then let's do as you say. It just so happens that I need a few cheap female slaves in my backyard. I heard that Luo Qingtong is pretty. Mo Qinxuan's smile was cold. Although she is a woman from an inferior country, she is not even qualified to be my female slave after being destroyed. But I can't let go of those who offend me easily. Otherwise, everyone wants to step on my head. How can I deal with it? He looked at Yu Wenma coldly and said, after destroying her strength, send her to my mansion, okay? Just right, he could have a taste of the woman Ma Qinyi liked. Although Mo Qinxian didn't think that the rumor that Ma Qinyi liked her was true. But she was indeed on Ma Qinyi's side. No wonder she was so ambitious and wanted to break off the engagement with Yu Wenma. Mo Qinxian sneered. She just didn't know what kind of expression Mo Qinyi would have when the other party became a lowly female slave in his residence and was given to his subordinates to be ridden by thousands and tens of thousands of people. Yes. Yu Wenma clenched his fists fiercely. Although he was reluctant, he finally gritted his teeth and agreed. Mo Qinxian looked at him and finally waved his hand lazily, saying, okay, you can leave. 3 days later, remember not to make a mistake. Otherwise, you know what I am capable of. Mo Chinchuan's voice was cold. With Yu Wenma's strength, it was absolutely impossible for him to lose to Luo Qintong. If he really failed, it would mean that he deliberately let go. At that time, neither of them would let him go. Mo Chinchuan's words were more like a threat than an exhortation. Hearing the meaning behind his words, Yu Wenma's hands suddenly tightened. In the end, he didn't dare to say anything and directly left. After leaving the Dragon Core's encampment, his eyes turned cold. Yu Wenma definitely didn't want to give up Luo Qintong. He had persevered for so many years, so how could he let all his efforts go to waste now? But Mo Chinchuan's meaning was so obvious that it was not easy to fool him. He absolutely could not disobey. Then he could only start with Luo Qintong. As long as she surrendered without a fight or admitted defeat, then he would have no reason to attack her. Not to mention crippling her. This way, she would still be his fiancée. When the time came, she would kowtow and apologize for this matter and everything would be fine. Yu Wenma felt that compared to being crippled and becoming Mo Chinchuan's female slave, Luo Qintong would agree to his suggestion. However, Yu Wenma, are you crazy? Luo Qintong heard his words and couldn't help but laugh. He wanted her to admit defeat and surrender without a fight. He also wanted her to kowtow and apologize to the Dragon Core's people and the Soul Institute's teachers. Chapter 952. If you're sick, hurry up and get treated. Don't be an eyesore here. Luo Qintong's eyes were cold as she prepared to leave. When Yu Wenma asked her out, she thought that he had changed his mind and was ready to break off the engagement. She didn't expect that he was here to persuade her to admit defeat. He even acted as if it was for her own good. If that was the case, why didn't Yu Wenma admit defeat? If he admitted defeat and broke off the engagement, wouldn't everything be fine? In the end, it was all for his own selfish reasons. Now he was acting as if it was all for her sake. Yu Wenma still had the nerve to say it, but Luo Qintong wanted to vomit after hearing it. She didn't want to waste any time on him, but it was clear that Yu Wenma didn't think so. Luo Qintong, that's enough. Yu Wenma looked at Luo Qintong with gloomy and cold eyes. Do you know what will happen to you if you offend King Wu? Do you think the Crown Prince will save you? Wake up. If the Crown Prince could deal with His Highness King Wu, the Dragon Regiment wouldn't be the only one in the Empire of Qin's Holy Academy. I don't know what you did to the Heavenly Hall's training ground to prevent the Dragon Regiment from entering. But that opportunity can only be used once. Luo Qintong. King Wu is back. What will you use to resist him and the Dragon Regiment? To tell you the truth, admitting defeat is your only way out. Otherwise, I'll break your limbs, cripple your strength, and send you to the Wu Imperial Manor as a female slave. Are you willing to do that, or are you willing to continue being my fiancé and preserve your strength? Before Yu Wenma could finish speaking, Luo Qintong's cold voice rang out. I won't choose either. Yu Wenma, wait until you defeat me. Let's talk about this later. Cripple her strength. Demote her to a female slave. As long as he had the ability, she would accompany him to the end. Luo Qintong said and turned to leave. She was afraid that if she stayed a few more seconds, she wouldn't be able to resist using the life and death yin-yang sword to hack Yu Wenma into pieces. But she couldn't, not now. 3 days later, in the arena, she would openly trample on her opponent. Luo Qintong, this is your own choice. Don't blame me for not giving you a chance. Yu Wenma was almost angered to death by Luo Qintong. If it wasn't for her background and that opportunity, how could he have been trampled by her again and again? Luo Qintong, since you refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit, then don't blame me. In an instant, Yu Wenma made up his mind and turned to leave. This Yu Wenma is truly disgusting. He clearly coveted some benefits from you and was unwilling to give you up. Yet, he acted as if he was doing it for your own good and was saving you. Does he really think that other than him, everyone else is blind? On Luo Qingtong's shoulder, Little Pig ran out of nowhere and jumped onto her shoulder. Luo Qingtong paused when she heard its voice. Then, she lifted it up by its two little ears. Where have you been all this time? Luo Qingtong looked at it coldly. This guy ran away as soon as he entered the holy capital of the Empire of Qin. Now that he came back, his stomach was round from eating. She didn't know which family he had gone to harm. He. Luo Qingtong said as she leaned on Yi Qianming softly. How could Yi Qianming really let go of her in this state? Suddenly, he picked her up with a conflicted expression. It was hard to tell if he was more depressed or distressed as he carried her and strode out. Little Pig was already stunned in Luo Qingtong's arms. Oh my God, is this world a fantasy? This woman actually threw herself into a man's arms and acted coquettishly. And the man wasn't even that man. Little Pig didn't appear for several days and missed the key information. His face was filled with sadness and confusion. He didn't know if he should support Luo Qingtong to find another, true love, or break up the couple and let that woman wake up and avoid Yi Qianming's pursuit. Hatred born from love was the most terrifying thing. Even until the day Luo Qingtong was prepared to have a duel with Yuanma, she still had not come to a conclusion. Chapter 954. Rumble. Luo Qingtong was sitting upright on the stairs in the center of the waterfall. She had been sitting there for nearly a day. At first, she would be sent flying as soon as she climbed up, but now, she could sit there for a whole day. The power in Luo Qingtong's body had already adapted to the impact of the water. The power in her body was faintly agitated. Bang! 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 The power lines around Luo Qingtong's body due to the rapid vibration of the power had already expanded to a 1-meter radius around her. From afar, it looked like a cocoon wrapped around Luo Qingtong. Chief Instructor, do you think boss can make a breakthrough? Yuanhu and the others were nervously guarding the shore, motionlessly raising their heads to look at Luo Qingtong, who was sitting upright on the stairs of the waterfall. Some of them could also climb the stairs in the center, but it was impossible for them to sit there for a whole day like Luo Qingtong. Boss was definitely going to make a breakthrough. Yuanhu and the others were very excited. At the same time, in the Holy Institute of the Empire of Qin, Yuanma and the members of the Dragon Regiment arrived at the arena of the Heavenly Palace's training ground near noon. The arena in the center was already empty. Most of the people in the Holy Institute of the Empire of Qin knew that Luo Qingtong and Yuanma had made a bet. This was probably the strangest couple in the history of the Holy Institute of the Empire of Qin. One wanted to break off the engagement, the other didn't. If it was just this, it would be fine. But the one who wanted to break off the engagement was rumored to love the one who didn't want to break off the engagement. The one who didn't want to break off the engagement was impatient, but for the sake of his promise, he was determined not to break off the engagement. Such a good show. In addition, Luo Qingtong and Yuanma both had a good reputation in the Holy Institute of the Empire of Qin. Especially Luo Qingtong, she did a series of surprising things as soon as she entered the Holy Institute. Almost everyone in the Holy Institute of the Empire of Qin knew her. Under such circumstances, this battle naturally attracted the attention of countless people. Mo Chenxian showed up surrounded by the crowd. He walked to the front of the arena and looked at Ma Chenyi, who was surrounded by the Gui Yuan clan. A cold light flashed in his eyes. Brother, I didn't expect you to come as well. It seems like you're really interested in that Luo Qingtong, just like the rumors say. But Mo Chenxian looked at Ma Chenyi and sneered. Imperial brother, don't you think this is too degrading? Is a woman from an inferior country worthy of your pursuit? Imperial brother, don't forget your identity. Mo Qinxian implied that Ma Qinye's behavior was not worthy of the crown prince's identity. She was just a girl from an inferior country. So what if she was powerful? Large amounts of water burst into the sky. In such a scene, Luo Qingtong was like Mu Yu walking on water. She stepped on the aura of the water in the sky and walked down step by step. The martial emperor realm, the realm of oneness of heaven and man. She could control the spiritual qi of heaven and earth with her own aura. Countless aura of water floated around Luo Qingtong. Chapter 956. Behind Luo Qingtong, there was a barrier that was hundreds of feet high. It made the girl look like a spirit that was rising from the water. Chief Instructor, I've broken through. Luo Qingtong's eyes sparkled as she looked at the man who was standing on the shore with his hands behind his back. This time, without Yi Qianxian, she would not have broken through so easily. To break through the barrier from the martial royal realm to the martial emperor realm, one had to use one's own strength to communicate with the power of heaven and earth and turn the power of heaven and earth into a part of one's own strength cycle. It was easy to say, but it was definitely not easy to do. Yi Qianxian had the heavenly pulse body. His meridians were naturally connected with the power of heaven and earth. Only he knew how to make Luo Qingtong communicate with the power of heaven and earth as soon as possible to establish a new cycle. If it were anyone else, it would be impossible to make Luo Qingtong break through from the martial royal realm to the martial emperor realm in a month. The improvement in the martial royal realm was a quantitative improvement. As long as the martial artist had enough comprehension and had enough strength in his body, he would naturally be able to break through the barrier. However, comprehension and strength were not enough to break through to the next realm. He also needed opportunities and opportunities. Breaking through to the martial emperor realm from the martial emperor realm was not only a breakthrough to the next realm, but also a breakthrough to a new level. Only when a martial artist entered the martial emperor realm could he be considered to have stepped into the ranks of the experts on the continent and started the real path of cultivation. Only those who entered this realm would know how awe-inspiring the real path of cultivation was. It was only after Luo Qingtong broke through to the martial emperor realm that she realized how shocking it was for her to kill those injured martial emperors with her eye technique and the life and death yin-yang sword. Below the martial emperor realm, she was the enemy of tens of thousands of people. As long as it was an expert below the martial emperor realm, a martial emperor realm expert could plunder the aura of the spiritual qi of heaven and earth around the opponent, so that the opponent could not replenish his strength. He could also directly freeze the aura of the spiritual qi around the opponent. In short, a martial artist below the martial emperor realm would not have any power to fight back against a martial emperor realm expert. However, Luo Qingtong had never felt this way. It was the same when she faced an expert above the martial emperor scripture. She did not think that it was because she was gifted. So, was there something that blocked all of this for her? Luo Qingtong could not help but look at the 9 phoenix ring on her finger. Was it? Otherwise, he wouldn't have defended her again and again and tried to find a way to absolve her. Maybe he did have other purposes for the previous Luo Qingtong, so he was unwilling to give her up. But now, the Luo Qingtong was completely different from what he knew. In addition to those reasons, he also wanted to have her. But she didn't care about him at all. When Luo Qingtong proposed to break off the engagement in the square when they just entered the academy, he thought that she was angry. When she made him kneel while she was fighting with the dragon group, he thought that she was still angry and was wantonly venting. But this time. Chapter 958. The girl who once followed him, called him Brother Mo, said that she would work hard to grow up and be his bride, and refused to give up no matter what, was gone. Now Luo Qingtong regarded him as an enemy, an opponent, and an obstacle in her eyes. She didn't want to have anything to do with him. The funny thing was that the Luo Qingtong used to be regarded as a burden and trash by him. He didn't want to spend any time and energy on her at all. He didn't even want to look at her. Now Luo Qingtong, who disdained him, was tempted. Yuanma didn't believe in retribution before, but now he did. Luo Qingtong would rather fail and become Mo Qinchuan's slave than be his fiancée. Her disgust for him had reached such a level. As Yuanma thought about it, he suddenly cracked the armrest of the chair he was sitting on. If he didn't withdraw his hand quickly, the armrest would have been crushed by him in an instant. Senior brother, don't be angry. When Luo Qingtong comes, you can teach her a lesson. But I think she doesn't dare to come. Su Jinhua, who was sitting next to him, noticed his behavior and thought that he was angry because Luo Qingtong didn't come. She suddenly felt a burst of joy in her heart and quickly comforted him. Anyway, if she doesn't come, you will break off the engagement. At that time, we still have a chance to get even with her. Especially when His Highness King Wu comes back. She can't escape. Senior brother, don't worry. If Luo Qingtong doesn't come, my father won't blame you. As she said, she glanced at Su Xiaoxiao and others with disdain and said, it's because some people talked big at the beginning, saying that there would be a gambling battle in a month and that they would break off the engagement. In the end, they just said that. In the end, they still didn't come and continued the trick of breaking off the engagement. It's disgusting. Obviously, she can't bear to leave my senior brother, but she pretended that she didn't care and made the whole Holy Academy know about it. Su Jinhua deliberately let Su Xiaoxiao and the others hear it. Her voice was extremely loud, and in an instant, it spread to the crowd around her. Su Xiaoxiao and the others heard it even though they were standing far away. In an instant, Su Xiaoxiao, that innocent girl, was so angry that her face turned red. How dare you speak ill of boss? Su Xiaoxiao was so angry that she was about to say something. The little girl holding the white cat beside her opened her mouth. That's still better than some shameless women who cling onto someone else's fiancé. Big sis Xiaoxiao, I'm still young, so I don't know how to describe these women. Do you know what to call it? Is she a promiscuous woman or a woman of loose morals? Or is it a lascivious sex? The little girl blinked her eyes and asked innocently. She scolded Su Jinhua thoroughly. You! Su Jinhua glared at the little girl holding the white cat. Before she could yell, a cold voice came from the back of the heavenly demon group from the other side. Let me tell you, this kind of person is called a green TB*TCH. As soon as the voice came, Su Xiaoxiao and the others immediately turned around. Boss! Their faces were full of joy. Because of Su Xiaoxiao and Yuanhu, the people in the heavenly demon group all called Luo Qingtong boss. Hearing this, the crowd in the dueling ring immediately turned their gazes over. Chapter 959. My God! The moment they saw the aura on Luo Qingtong's body, many people took a deep breath. Not for anything else. Luo Qingtong's aura was that of the martial emperor realm. Because she had just advanced, Luo Qingtong's aura was very sharp. Like sharp thorns, it spread in all directions. Even if she tried to restrain it, it would take 1 or 2 days for the sharp aura to circulate perfectly. Luo Qingtong had advanced to the martial emperor realm in a month. Everyone who felt the aura from Luo Qingtong's body opened their eyes wide. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. When Luo Qingtong entered the academy, she was only in the martial royal realm. Although her aura was very condensed, much more condensed than that of ordinary martial royal realm geniuses. But to advance from the martial royal realm to the martial emperor realm in a month. Were they dreaming? Was it because Luo Qingtong was too monstrous, or were they too ignorant? It should be known that Yuanma had a good reputation in the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin. But it took him more than half a year to advance from the martial royal realm to the martial emperor realm. Yuanma had reached the peak of the martial royal realm a long time ago. After that, he had been stuck at the threshold of advancing from the martial royal realm to the martial emperor realm. He couldn't cross it no matter how hard he tried. It was only after the trip to the Kaiyuan mystery land that he got an opportunity to cultivate in seclusion. Luo Qingtong had caught up with Yuanma's half a year of hard work in just a month. And looking at Luo Qingtong's aura, she didn't seem to be flimsy at all. She didn't forcibly improve her strength, but actually advanced. Everyone was dumbfounded. Very quickly, someone discovered that Yuan Hu and the rest, including a few members of the Gui Yuan team and a few talented students of the Saint Academy, who were following Luo Qingtong, had a great increase in their abilities. Instantly, they were shocked to realize that Luo Qingtong and the others followed the new chief instructor to train. That was why there was such an improvement. Oh my God! Back then, the Grand Principal had said that the chief instructor was very powerful and that if one became his last disciple, one's strength could increase by a whole realm within a month. It was actually true. That chief instructor actually did it. As the crowd thought about it, they were both shocked and regretful. Oh my God! If they had known that the chief instructor was so powerful, they would have also acknowledged him as their teacher. You want to be his closed-door student even if you have to be so thick-skinned. When everyone was shocked, Su Jinyue's face was filled with disbelief and embarrassment. How was this possible? Luo Qingtong had broken through to the martial emperor realm. Not only that, but his strength was also very solid. Even if Su Jinyue wanted to say that she had used some dirty tricks to improve herself, she couldn't say it out loud. She looked at Luo Qingtong with an ugly expression. There was nothing more embarrassing than being slapped in the face right now. She had just said that Luo Qingtong didn't dare to come to the battle, but the latter appeared in front of her. Not only that, but Luo Qingtong's words of a green tea bitch also hurt her deeply. Although she didn't know what a green tea bitch was. She didn't know that it was a good description. Su Jinyue's voice suddenly became sharp. Luo Qingtong. You. Chapter 960. This woman, from the first time she saw her, she had always been this overbearing. It was as if having a good family meant that the whole world was her mother. However, Luo Qingtong didn't have the attitude of Yuanma to spoil her. She calmly glanced at Su Jinyue and then lowered her head to look at the little girl holding the white cat beside Su Xiaoxiao. She raised her eyebrows and asked, "What's your name?" "Xingqi." The cute little loli giggled and said her name. Then she glanced at Su Jinyue, who was fuming with anger, and said, "So a woman who's sucking up to someone else's fiancé is called a green tea bitch?" She smiled and stroked the white cat in her arms. "I'll remember that. I'll call her green tea bitch from now on. I don't remember her name anyway." The little loli's words were always green tea bitch and woman who's sucking up to someone else's fiancé, instantly degrading Su Jinyue to the bottom of the mud. Yu Xingqi didn't hide her words at all. Her voice was clear and loud, with an indescribable childish taste, making Su Jinyue's character even more unbearable. When everyone heard her words, they couldn't help but glance at Su Jinyue, thinking that this little girl was right. No matter what, Yuanma was someone who had an engagement. In the past, Luo Qingtong wasn't in the sacred institution of the Empire of Qin and was rumored to be very unbearable. They didn't think that there was anything wrong with Su Jinyue liking Yuanma. But now, it seemed that she wasn't behaving properly. Yuanma had an engagement, yet she still wanted to be his concubine. Su Jinyue wanted to be a concubine for the daughter of a great teacher of the Soul Institute. If she didn't want to be his concubine, could it be that Su Jinyue wanted to get rid of Luo Qingtong from the start? No wonder Luo Qingtong's reputation in the sacred institution of the Empire of Qin was so bad. Also, Yuanma disliked Luo Qingtong so much before. He wondered how much Su Jinyue had done in the process. With that in mind, everyone looked at Su Jinyue differently. You. Su Jinhua was so angry that she couldn't speak. She did have the intention to replace Luo Qingtong. But how could the Luo Qingtong of the past be worth her scheming? She didn't even put him in her eyes, okay? But now, with just a few words from the other party, she had become synonymous with viciousness and scheming. She had even shamelessly thrown herself at him. There was no way she could clear her name in front of so many people. As Su Jinhua thought of this, she suddenly felt dizzy. He was so angry that he was about to vomit blood. What made her even angrier and more embarrassed was Luo Qingtong's next words. The green TB*TCH is real. As for my fiancé, he's just trash that I threw away. If she wants to pick him up, then let her. The moment Luo Qingtong's words came out, Su Jinhua's face was so angry that it almost distorted. Before she could speak, Yuanma had already stood up angrily. Luo Qingtong, I'm still your fiancé. Yuanma looked at the girl in front of him with an ugly expression. In her heart, he was just a pile of trash. Was he that unbearable? Ha! Luo Qingtong looked coldly at the anger on Yuanma's face. Chapter 961. Yuanma, when I received the annulment, you were no longer my fiancé. You just didn't want to admit it. What right do you have to be my fiancé? You people from Tianyu's royal family humiliated me and treated my Luo family like pigs and dogs. Have you ever thought about me and the Luo family? After being engaged for so many years, how many times have you been to our Luo family? How many times have you seen me and my grandfather? Yuanma, those who humiliate others will be humiliated by others. You abandoned my Luo family like a pair of worn-out shoes. In my eyes, how much better are you than trash? Luo Qingtong's expression was cold. The words she said were all what that Luo Qingtong wanted to say to Yuanma back then. Before the Luo Qingtong disappeared, her greatest wish was not only to protect the Luo family, but also to make Yuanma regret his actions. She wanted Yuanma to know that she didn't care about him anymore. In her eyes, he wasn't even a piece of trash. Today, Luo Qingtong helped her say it. Shua! Luo Qingtong jumped onto the stage. Yuanma, come up. Let's settle this once and for all today. I'll let everyone know that you, Yuanma, aren't good enough for me, Luo Qingtong. Luo Qingtong's voice sounded. The girl's aura exploded one by one. In the blink of an eye, the black robes around her body fluttered in the wind. That was the robe that Yi Qianming wrapped around her body. Luo Qingtong wore it on the stage. The black robe made Luo Qingtong's skin look like snow, white and tender like cream. Her black silky hair hung on Luo Qingtong's shoulder and was tied up by a purple hair band. It was really charming and elegant. At this moment, Luo Qingtong was like a goddess of war, cold and unparalleled, domineering and enchanting. Yuanma, come and fight. Luo Qingtong raised her right hand and unsheathed the thunder wind sword, pointing it at Yuanma. Today's battle wasn't just to cancel the engagement and take back the Luo family's token. It was to wash away the humiliation of the Luo family. For the Tianyu royal family's ungrateful actions. Even more so, for the pride of the original owner who had been let down. Yuanma. I will represent her and trample you under my feet. Tell everyone that you're not good enough for her. Hong. Following Luo Qingtong's voice sounded. Below, Yuanma was completely enraged. His gaze was cold and gloomy as he looked at the young girl who was pointing her sword at him. The aura around him also exploded. Luo Qingtong, you forced me to do this. He wanted to give Luo Qingtong, but time and time again too's a woman's it since then. Don't blame him to if he couldn't have it, then no one else could either. Luo Yuanmo's figure also leaped onto the arena in an instant. The two of them looked at each other from afar. A bone-chilling aura seeped out of Yuanma's body. In just an instant, the entire arena was shrouded in that aura. Creak. As the aura spread out from his body, the railings around the entire ring emitted a screeching sound. Yuanma's aura was so cold that it froze the railings around the stage. Soul imprint spirit body. It's a soul seal spirit body. The aura of the soul imprint in Yuanma's body is so strong. He's not an ordinary soul imprint spirit body, right? Chapter 962. Cries of surprise came from the crowd. Yuanma's soul power aura was so strong that it was not something a beginner martial emperor could compare with. As a heaven-grade student who entered the Empire of Qin Saint Academy from the Empire Branch Academy, he was accepted as a closed-door student by the Soul Academy's great teacher. Su Jinhua had contributed a lot to this, but Yuanma's talent and strength were also indispensable. Otherwise, no matter how much Su Jinhua liked him and said good things about him to Su Diheng, the latter would not risk damaging his reputation to accept a person with mediocre talent and strength. Yuanma's aura was so strong that it was comparable to a beginner martial emperor's. The cold aura emitted from his body was enough to freeze a martial emperor's aura and make it difficult for them to circulate their energy. They were no match for him. Only a beginner martial emperor could resist the cold aura in his body. But don't forget that Yuanma had soul skills. His innate soul body could maximize the cold energy in his body. In terms of combat strength, Yuanma's strength was comparable to a mid-level martial emperor's. As for Luo Qingtong, she had just broken through to the martial emperor's level. She might not even be stable as a beginner martial emperor. How could she compare with Yuanma? Everyone looked at the cold aura emitted from Yuanma's body and was almost certain that Luo Qingtong would lose. What a pity. Someone shook his head and said, Luo Qingtong's talent is definitely above Yuanma's. She reached the martial emperor's level in a month. If Luo Qingtong was given enough time, Yuanma would definitely not be her match. But now, she's definitely going to lose. Yeah. The people around him echoed. No one thought that Luo Qingtong would be Yuanma's match. The latter's strength completely suppressed Luo Qingtong. Not to mention other things, Luo Qingtong might not be able to resist the cold aura of the soul seal. Defeat was only a matter of time. Su Xiaoxiao and the others listened to the discussion around them and felt nervous. The strength that Yuanma displayed was indeed extraordinary. Even if they had great confidence in Luo Qingtong, they didn't dare to say that she would definitely win against Yuanma. After all, the martial emperor from the royal family of Tianyu whom Luo Qingtong had killed could not be compared to the latter's strength. Boss! Su Xiaoxiao and the others were worried. In the ring, Luo Qingtong looked at the aura emitted from Yuanma's body and narrowed her eyes. She remembered the reason why Yuanma and the original Luo Qingtong. Yuanma was born with a cold illness. From the looks of it now, his innate cold illness had become a part of his innate talent, allowing him to become a soul imprint spirit body. Yuanma had received such a great favor from the original owner's mother, yet he actually viewed the original owner and the Luo family as burdens and despised them in every way possible. Luo did they deserve it? Luo Qingtong's eyes were cold. She raised her wind and thunder sword and rushed towards Yuanma. Rumble. The two figures instantly clashed together. Luo Qingtong's long sword was like a dragon. As she waved her sword, the sound of wind and thunder came out. Together with the wind and thunder on the long sword, they slashed towards Yuanma. You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.